Today, let's talk about these ongoing protests in the Islamic Republic of Iran. I guess, according to some sources like the Wall Street Journal, oil workers, the oil industry, have joined in on these protests. I guess Iranian officials say the strikes are related to a labor dispute, but workers are saying their demands mirror those of the broader anti-government movement, anti-dictatorship movement. And I think a good place to start would be this interview that I found in the New York Times. It's an interview from October of 1979 during the whole Islamic revolution in Iran. This was with the journalist Oriana Fallaci. I think you can find this without a New York Times membership. I highly recommend checking it out on your own time because we're only going to be looking at a little bit of it. At one point, Oriana Fallaci, she's talking to Ayatollah Khamenei, Ruhollah Khomeini, who became the figurehead and ultimately the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. She was talking to Ayatollah Khomeini saying, "Please, Imam, there are many things I still want to ask you. For example, this chador that they made me put on to come to you, and which you insist all women must wear. Tell me, why do you force them to hide themselves, all bundled up under these uncomfortable and absurd garments, making it hard to work and move about? And yet, even here, women have demonstrated that they are equal to men. They fought just like the men, were imprisoned and tortured. They too helped make the revolution." Ayatollah Khamenei says, "The women who contributed to the revolution were and are women with the Islamic dress. Not elegant women all made up like you who go around all uncovered, dragging behind them a tail of men. The coquettes who put on makeup and go out into the streets showing off their necks, their hair, their shapes, did not fight against the Shah. They never did anything good. Not those. They do not know how to be useful, neither socially, nor politically, nor professionally. And this is so because by uncovering themselves, they distract men and upset them. Then they distract and upset other." Are you guys getting this? So I guess this is the worldview that a mystic like Ayatollah Khamenei has. That he has such a low view of humanity that he thinks that if women walk around in public uncovered, not covered up by his standards, that men, us dumb men, will just get all distracted. We'll turn into a bunch of mindless hornballs, just waltzing around, stumbling around, chasing any woman that we see is showing a little too much skin, a little too much hair, so to speak. Of course, we know this is hilariously not true when you consider a country like the United States, who even in 1979 never had any of these ridiculous clothing mandates, and yet in America, people, men, women, achieved many great things. Inventions of new products, inventions of new technology, construction of skyscrapers, curing of diseases, putting people on the moon like Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. I mean, you would think, given Ayatollah Khamenei's view of man, that men like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, they would be too distracted. They'd be too upset, mindlessly bumbling around behind uncovered women all the time. They'd be too distracted to focus on getting to the moon and back.
That's just not smart.
This is the kind of country that a low view of man gets you. Can't trust men to not turn into mindless hornballs, sex-craved lunatics, because they might lose their focus and intelligence at the sight of a woman showing a little too much of her body. And Oriana Fallaci, to her credit, responded, "That's not true. In any case, I am not only talking about piece of clothing, but what it represents. That is the condition of segregation in which women have been cast once again after the revolution. The fact that they cannot study at university with men, or work with men, for example, or go to the beach or to a swimming pool with men. They have to take a dip apart in their chadors. By the way, how do you even swim in one of these chadors? Khamenei said, "This is none of your business. Our customs are none of your What a logical answer from such a smart guy like Ayatollah Khamenei. That's none of your business. Our customs are none of your business. If you do not like Islamic dress, you are not obliged to wear it because Islamic dress is good and proper, young women." Falachi, again, to her credit, says, "That is very kind of you, Imam, and since you said so, I'm going to take off this stupid medieval rag right now. There. Done."
You're goddamn right.
So what does this have to do with the current protests? Well, they were sparked after a 22-year-old woman in Iran, Mahsa Amini, she died under suspicious circumstances after getting arrested. She was in custody of Iran's morality police, and she died under suspicious circumstances while in the custody of the so-called morality police. And she was arrested for not wearing her beloved hijab out in public. And so ever since then, there's been a lot of protests, civil unrest in Iran. We've even had a rock climber recently. I saw this story unfold the last few days on Twitter. It was originally reported that she was rock climbing without any face coverings because she was supporting these protests in Iran. And as it turns out, shortly after her competition, she was flown back to Tehran, and people were speculating that she was going to get sent to jail. But I guess she ended up going on television and claiming that it was just an accident. It accidentally fell off, you guys. So it's hard to tell what's true with this story. What was she supporting the protest? Was she being defiant to these theocratic thugs who rule over Iran, or did it just accidentally fall off? And a reason why I say this is because the Islamic regime in Iran has been known to coerce people into saying things, at least according to an article from 2018 written by Masih Alinejad, who's a journalist and has been an outspoken critic of the brutal regime in Iran. She wrote an article about how her relatives, who still live in Iran, were coerced and pressured and intimidated into showing up on state television in Iran to denounce Masih Alinejad. In fact, I'm actually in the middle of reading Masih's book right now, My Hair in the Wind. And she talks about the wind in my hair, excuse me. The wind in my hair, according to her book. She talks about how when she grew up, she was just a kid when the revolution was unfolding, and she did not appreciate being forced to suddenly cover up all the time because, according to her, my hair was part of my identity, but you could no longer see it. When I was growing up, my hair was no longer part of my body. It had been hijacked and replaced with a headscarf. This has also been discussed in Marjani Satrapi's book, Persepolis, where she talks about growing up as a kid and suddenly being forced to cover up and being segregated at schools. Both are pretty good books. I'm in the middle of both of them. I find them very interesting when thinking about this topic. And yeah, she's written a lot. A lot's been written about Alinejad, the woman whose hair frightens Iran. And you gotta wonder who's standing up to these thugs besides the protesters in Iran. Are we gonna hear something from the United Nations?
No, of course not.
Who I guess has this Council on Women According to their About Us, the UN Women is a global champion for gender equality, working to develop and uphold standards and create an environment in which every woman and girl can exercise her human rights and live up to her full potential. We are trusted partners for advocates and decision makers from all walks of life and a leader in the effort to achieve gender equality. All right, this all sounds good. I wish them the best of luck. Apparently, there are currently about 45 member states on this council, and you know who are some who's one of the members on this council is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Also, Afghanistan, if you notice them at the top, who recently got taken over by the Taliban, who has pushed a hard rewind button on women's rights in Afghanistan. I guess these are the countries leading this commission on the status of women.
You absolutely suck!
Meanwhile, the regime in Iran has resorted to using force in an attempt to crush the opposition, to crush the protest, to crush the civil unrest in Iran. And for as bad as the mandated face coverings are in Iran, we're just scratching the surface on how brutal and authoritarian the regime in Iran is. After all, it's not like we're talking about an imperfect liberal country with democratic elements like, say, maybe a France or a Canada or an Australia. No, this is a brutal theocracy. Even going back to the interview from 1979, Khomeini talks about how stuff like music and alcohol are prohibited. And reading The Wind in My Hair, she talks about how the revolution immediately cracked down on a lot of stuff that we in the West often enjoy every day. But add to this the fact that the Islamic Republic, the Islamic regime in Iran, has been hostile to the United States and has sought to export its goofy-ass Islamic revolution for roughly the last 40-plus years. It's even more reason to support the protesters in Iran, who are now going as far to demand death to the dictator.
You're goddamn right.
And if this movement ultimately leads to the end of the Islamic Republic in Iran, hopefully this time their government is replaced with a government that better respects individual rights rather than merely replacing it with another flavor of dictatorship like what happened in 1979. Falaci even asked the Ayatollah about a law that permits men to have up to 4 wives, and Khomeini responded, "The law of 4 wives is a very progressive law." Saying, since there are more women than men, more women are born than men, and more men are killed in war than women. And this was before Iran got involved with invading its neighbors like Iraq, which, resulted in the death of many Iranian men. A woman needs a man. So what can we do since there are more women than men in the world? Would you rather prefer that the excess number of women become whores, or that they marry a man with 4 other wives? And let me add another point. Even under the difficult conditions which Islam imposes on a man with 2 or 3 or 4 wives, there is equal treatment, equal affection, and equal time. This law is better than monogamy.